Hey guys, so today we're checking out the S&B cold air intake with the oiled cleanable cotton filter fitting all 2016 and newer 3.5 liter Toyota Tacomas. So if you are in search of some better efficiency and response for your truck, then this is going to be a great choice to take a look into. Now this will increase the airflow up to 44% according to S&B, which is going to increase your horsepower and torque numbers and also increase your throttle response. So if you felt a lack of that from your factory intake or your truck in general, especially when you're getting on the highway, this is definitely going to give you a boost there while having a quality construction. Now speaking of that construction, this is going to have a closed airbox design very similar to the factory one, which is going to provide a lot of protection to that filter inside. So this will be more for somebody who's looking for some more protection out of their intake, especially if you live in a wetter climate or you're taking your truck off-road a lot, but you're still looking for a lot of airflow, as to where this one compared to the factory one is going to increase that one significantly. So you're going to get a standard inlet over on the side, just like we saw with the factory one, but you're also going to get a ram air up at the front, but you do have the option to not utilize that. So if you're looking for a little bit more protection and not as much air intake to the filter there is a cap here. So I do like that S&B gives you that option. Now speaking of that filter inside, this is going to come with an oiled filter, as it says in the name. Now some people prefer an oiled filter over a dry filter. There's very minimal difference in the design as far as the filtration and the intake is concerned, but some people claim that the oiled filter is going to catch a little bit more of the contaminants just because it is a little bit stickier and provide a little less airflow. However, this again is going to drastically increase that airflow. So if you are looking for a little bit better filtration and you're looking for something that is going to provide you a lot of airflow at the same time, this filter is definitely going to do that. Not to mention, you're getting a straight through airflow design with your intake tube. So overall, this is going to be a big increase in performance for your 3.5 liter and great for somebody who is looking for a boost in that performance, a boost in their throttle response, and also wants a lot of filtration and protection for their filter. Now with all that being said, this is going to come in at roughly $350 for the kit, and honestly that's a great price, especially with the quality and the construction and everything that you're getting with the kit. Now not only is this going to give you options, again it's going to give you a lot of protection and it's going to have a durable construction. Some other options available on the page may only come with a heat shield instead of the closed box design like I mentioned before. That is going to give a little bit more airflow, considering that there's not as much restriction, considering you're not going to have a box around your filter, but it's not going to give you as much protection. Not to mention the other option, some other choices come with a dry filter. That kind of comes down to your personal preference. Sometimes dry filters don't require as much maintenance as to where if you were to clean this, you have to pop it out, clean it, re-oil it, and pop it right back in. However, if you're looking for an intake that's going to last the lifetime of your truck, is going to provide a lot of protection and look good while doing it, then S&B has you covered. Now when it comes to install, I'm going to give this a 1 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter. It is going to take you a little bit to kind of put everything together and swap everything over from your factory intake. So I would say about an hour to get the job done in your driveway with some pretty basic hand tools. So speaking of the install, let's jump into that now. The tools that I used for my install were an impact wrench, a pair of scissors, a Phillips head screwdriver and a flathead screwdriver, a pair of pliers, a couple extensions, a 12mm, 10mm, and an 8mm socket. So the first step of our install is to pop off our engine cover, and then we can go ahead and disconnect everything from our intake, including the MAF sensor and our breather hose. So what we can do is just pull up on our engine cover and pull back, get this out of the way. Then we can disconnect our breather hose. This is going to have a small little clamp on it. I'm going to use a pair of pliers. We can move that clamp back and then just pull back on that hose there. Next, what we can do is disconnect our MAF sensor. So I'm just going to push down on that tab and pull back. And we do have to unhook our sensor here from this little clip. So you can take a flathead screwdriver and open this up. We can just pop this wire over to the side, making sure that it's in a good location. If your engine is hot, just make sure that it's not on anything hot. But at this point, now we can start to disconnect the rest of our intake. So what we're gonna do is pull the top part of our airbox and the intake tube out as a whole. So what I'm gonna do is unclip these two little clamps over on the side. And that will kind of disconnect the top here. Then we can move around to the throttle body. So on the throttle body, we're gonna have a clamp with a 10mm bolt. I'm going to use a 10mm socket and a small extension just to give myself a little bit of room, and we can loosen that up. Now what we can do is move over to the side and pull towards us, and we can take off the top part of the intake. What we can do now is pop out our air filter, put this to the side, and that will expose two bolts down in the bottom that we have to remove. Now using a 12mm socket and an extension to clear the side of the airbox here, we can remove those two bolts. So if you're looking at the intake box from where I am on the left side, we're also going to have a bolt that's holding the tab on the outside of the airbox. I'm going to use the same 12mm socket to remove it. Now once that is removed, we'll be able to remove our airbox. Now we can just pull up and out. So before we jump into the install and putting our new intake together, I did want to stop down and show you some of the similarities and differences on the table of our new intake and our factory one sitting side by side. Now starting off is just a brief overview of our factory intake. We're going to have a large enclosed air box as far as the overall construction is concerned. We're going to have a paper filter or a paper element here. And then we're also going to have a large resonator on the back of the intake tube. When moving over to our new option by SMB, we're going to kind of get these similar construction, but it is going to be a big upgrade when it comes to the performance and the overall airflow. Now, we do have an enclosed box design, however, it is going to be a big upgrade considering that not only are we getting an outlet on the side, just like our factory one, but we're getting another inlet over on the front of our intake that is going to have the option of a ram air tube. Now this is going to pull a lot of air in from the grill, and you do get a choice if you'd like to cap it off or not. However, I do like the fact that it gives you that option if you're looking for essentially double the airflow and double the performance out of your intake. Now you're also getting a large window up at the top. This is going to be a nice clear window. Not only is it going to give you a sporty look the inside of your intake or the inside of your engine bay, but you also get to keep an eye on your filter when it comes to maintenance. Now speaking of the filter, our factory filter, like I mentioned, is a paper element filter. Now this is going to have to be replaced for the lifetime of your truck. You're going to have to continually replace this once it gets crummy and dirty. As you can tell, ours is starting to do that, so that's a perfect time for replacement. Now we're moving over to our new option. As you can see, this is going to be a lot bigger, which will bring in a lot more air, and it's going to offer some better filtration in comparison to our factory one. Now this is going to be an 8-layer cotton oiled filter, so it will be reusable. You can pop this out of place, clean it, re-oil it, and pop it right back in. So this will last the lifetime of your truck, and it is going to offer some better filtration and get all of those micro contaminants and stick them to the filter, especially with that oil there, making sure that nothing is going to get into the intake past that filter point and into your intake manifold, essentially into your engine, and kind of bogging down the performance of your engine over time. Now this is also just going to have that red look to it with the oil there. I personally like that look. I think it gives it a very sporty look, especially paired with that window up at the top like I mentioned before. Not to mention, this is also just going to sit inside that air box there, just like our factory one with our paper element, providing a lot of protection. As you can see, this does have some small contaminants, but it doesn't have any large contaminants, and that's thanks to the enclosed box filter, so you can expect the same thing out of the enclosed box with the S&B, providing a lot of protection from any large contaminants or even any excess water that may get into your engine bay. Now moving on to the intake tube, as you can see on our new one here, this is going to have a straight through style approach to it, as to where our factory one is going to have a large resonator on the back. That's going to cause a lot of restriction, and that's why you're not really seeing a lot of performance when it comes to your factory intake. But when moving over to this new option by S&B, this is going to have a direct streamline of air going from the filter to your intake manifold and to your throttle body to make sure you're getting the best performance out of your intake. Not to mention, it's going to have a durable construction. This is going to have a nice plastic construction, so it's not going to retain any heat. And you're getting everything that you need in order to install it on your truck, including all of the silicone couplers that will last a lot longer than these factory plastic couplers that seem to break or crack over time. That will cause a lot of bog down in performance when it comes to the factory intake, so you can ensure that those are going to hold up, and you're getting all of the clamps and really everything that you need in order to swap everything over from your factory intake onto your new one, which we will do in just a second. So again, this is going to be a huge upgrade for your truck. So what do you say we go ahead and piece this together so we can get this in the Tacoma? So we will have to swap over our mass airflow sensor here. I'm going to use a Phillips head screwdriver and just take out the 2 factory screws that are holding it in. Maybe 1 on either side. Now once both of those are out, what we can do is carefully wiggle the sensor back, pop it out of place, and put our new intake tube in front of us so we can get this mounted up. So what we can do first is place our little felt gasket right on top there. Then we can take our new mounting bracket and align that on the top. Then we can take our MAF sensor, making sure that it's pointed in the correct direction. That's going to fit down on in just like that. Now once that's in there, what we can do is take our new provided hardware, which is the longer Phillips head bolts, and we can take our Phillips head screwdriver and thread those into place. What we can do now is start to prep our airbox. We are going to install our intake or our filter when it's on the car, because we do have to secure the airbox down from the inside of the airbox. But we're going to take our gasket for our filter and pop this on into place. This might be a little bit difficult because it does have to sit in that channel there. Next, over on the side here, we're just going to have a small little coupler that's going to go out to the fender. And then on the front, we're going to have the square intake. So what we can either do is use this cap it off, or you can add the intake tube or the ram air intake tube. So before we can attach our airbox into our truck, we do need to swap over the little grommets that is going to space out our bolts that we'll be reusing from the factory. So what I'm going to do is take a flathead screwdriver. You can also do this by hand, but it's sometimes easier with a little pick tool or something like a flathead. And we're just going to remove the metal sleeve inside that grommet there, and then we can wiggle the grommet out of place just by bending it. So this outside one's pretty easy. You can do the same thing for the inside ones. So you're gonna have 3 that you have to remove in total. Then we can put our factory airbox to the side and pop them in our new one. As you can see, we're gonna have 3 holes down at the bottom. We're just going to do that process in reverse by just popping our grommet in there. Now we can take our air box, making sure that that large opening for the filter is facing the throttle body. We can position it down on into place. Once it's in place, we can grab our 12mm socket and our factory hardware, and we can start to thread in our factory hardware. I like to get them all started by hand because it's not necessarily the easiest thing to see. Once they're all threaded, we can grab our impact wrench and tighten those up. What we can do now is pop on our silicone coupler at the smaller end of our intake tube. Make sure that it's sitting over that lip there. And we will have to put on both of our clamps just for the time being. So what we can do is take the smaller side and kind of fish it through. It's going to be a little bit easier to line everything up. You want to make sure that those clamps are on there because we're going to pull this through and attach it to our throttle body. Once the intake tube is in place, what we can do is grab our filter and the clamp for our filter, and we can pop that on to the intake tube inside our airbox here. What we can do now is make sure that the clamps are positioned in place around our intake tube as well as our throttle body. We can take an 8mm socket and tighten those down. Then we can do the same thing for our filter. Next, we can add our clear top to our airbox. So first we have to make sure that our gasket is sitting on the edge. So once you have most of the gasket in, what we can do is just trim this. I'm just using a pair of scissors. And we can continue to just pop that end piece in and line it up. Then we can take our clear window and line it up. This is going to have a little bit of flex to it, but we can grab our provided screws and the plastic washers and start to thread this into the top of our airbox. What I would recommend to do is get each threaded a couple times with a Phillips head screwdriver. Then you can tighten them down after they're all in. Last but not least, we can reinstall our hose, sliding that on, taking our pliers and putting that little clip around to make sure that it stays in place. Then you can grab our mass airflow sensor plug and click this into place, and then pop on our engine cover. And pop on our engine cover, press it down, and you're all good to go. So that is going to wrap it up for my review and install. Make sure you like and subscribe for more videos and products just like this, and always keep it right here at extremeterrain.com.